The police found my wife in the river at dawn. By breakfast, they were knocking on my door, their faces grim, their questions like stones. We'd fought the night before, a stupid, meaningless fight about money, about the future, about nothing at all. But it was loud, loud enough for the neighbors to hear every angry word, every slammed door. That was strike one. Strike two was the blood. A small, dark smear on the cuff of my shirt. I told them it was from a cut I got while fixing the sink earlier that day, a clumsy slip with a wrench. They didn't believe me. Their eyes said it all. And strike three, my phone. It was off for 3 hours, 3 crucial hours. I told them the battery died. I'd forgotten to charge it. It was the truth, the simple, boring truth. But in the face of a tragedy, the simple truth often sounds like the most elaborate lie. They took me in. The questions kept coming, circling, tightening like a noose. My alibi was me, alone, stewing in my own frustration after our fight, falling asleep on the couch. Not exactly compelling. The prosecution painted a picture of a jealous husband, a marriage on the rocks, a final, fatal argument. They had the fight. They had the blood, which they spun into a story of a struggle. They had the 3-hour gap in my digital life. It was enough. The jury came back in less than a day, guilty. Just like that, my life was over. The judge's voice was a distant hum as he handed down the sentence. Life, my wife was gone, and the world believed I had taken her. Prison is a place that hollows you out. It steals time, not just in hours and days, but it scoops out the very meaning of it. The first year was a blur of noise and fear. The clang of steel doors, the shouts in the yard, the constant, simmering tension. I learned to survive by making myself small, invisible. Keep your head down. Don't make eye contact. Don't ask questions. Don't offer information. Names became just sounds. Faces were just shapes you learned to avoid. My own name started to feel foreign on my tongue. I was just a number. Inmate 734. Hope is a dangerous thing in a place like this. It's a flicker of light that only makes the surrounding darkness feel deeper. For a while, I clung to it. My lawyer filed appeals. I wrote letters, hundreds of them, to anyone who would listen. Innocence projects, journalists, old friends, most went unanswered. The ones that did come back were filled with polite, empty sympathy. The system had made its decision. The world had moved on. Slowly, painfully, the hope began to die. It didn't go out in a gust, but faded like a weak ember until all that was left was a cold, gray ash inside my chest. I stopped fighting. I stopped hoping. I just existed. Day after day, meal after meal, count after count. Then, 3 years into my sentence, things changed. They moved a new man into my cell. The guards shoved him through the door with a rough welcome home. Most new cellmates are either terrified or aggressive, trying to establish dominance from the first second. But this man, he was different. He was calm. He just stood there for a moment, taking in the small, concrete box that was now his world. He wasn't big or intimidating, just composed. He turned, offered a small nod, and said, "Looks like we're neighbors." His name was Marcus. He was well-mannered, almost polite, which was a rarity in here. He kept his area neat. He read books from the prison library, mostly history and philosophy. He didn't pry or ask the usual questions like, "What are you in for?" We fell into a quiet routine. We'd eat our meals in silence, maybe exchange a few words about the weather or the quality of the slop they served us. It was a strange kind of peace. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was constantly on guard. There was a stillness about him that was almost soothing, but there was something else too. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. It was his smile. He didn't do it often, but when he did, it was a quick, closed-lip thing. And every time I saw it, this cold knot would tighten in my stomach. It felt familiar, disturbingly familiar. I'd rack my brain trying to place it. Had I seen him before, maybe on the news, in another life? I'd go through the faces from my past, from my trial, from my old neighborhood. Nothing. It was like trying to remember a dream. The feeling was strong, but the image was just out of reach. One evening, we were sitting on our bunks, the drone of the facility a low hum around us. He was reading, and I was just staring at the wall, lost in the usual gray fog of my thoughts. He chuckled softly at something in his book. I glanced over. He looked up, caught my eye, and gave me that smile again. This time, it hit me. It wasn't just the smile. It was the way his eyes crinkled at the corners. The specific shape of it. It wasn't a memory of a face I was chasing. It was a memory of a feeling, the feeling of unease. The image flashed in my mind, so clear it was like I was there again. A rainy Tuesday, about a month before my wife died. I was picking up coffee. She was at the counter, talking to the barista. A man next to her was waiting for his order. He said something to her, something I couldn't hear. She gave a polite but dismissive response and turned away. The man smiled. It was that exact same smile. A fleeting moment I'd barely registered at the time, but seeing it now on Marcus's face, in this cell, it was like a key turning in a lock I didn't even know was there. My stomach dropped. I tried to tell myself it was a coincidence. People look alike. People smile the same way. This place was making me paranoid, seeing ghosts where there were none, but I couldn't shake it. The next day, I started watching him, really watching him. Not just his smile, but the way he walked, the way he held his fork, the way he spoke. His voice was measured, calm. He told me he was in four-armed robbery, a simple story. But the details were always a little vague, a little too clean. The more I watched, the more the coincidences piled up. He mentioned growing up near the river, the same river where they found my wife. He talked about knowing the trail paths there like the back of his hand. He made a casual comment once about how easy it is for a person to just disappear. Each little piece of information was a drop of ice water on my spine. My mind was racing, connecting dots I had never seen before. The fight with my wife, me sleeping on the couch, her deciding to go for a walk to clear her head, something she often did. The river path. A chance encounter, a man who doesn't like being dismissed. The friendly, quiet cellmate was gone. In his place was a monster I might have shared a coffee line with. The man who smiled at my wife, the man who might have been the last person to see her alive. The calm he projected no longer seemed peaceful, it seemed predatory. The stillness wasn't soothing, it was the chilling calm of someone with nothing to lose because he'd already gotten away with the ultimate crime. My blood ran cold. I was locked in a tiny room with him. 3 years ago, he took my life from the outside. Now, here he was, sharing my air, sleeping a few feet away. The truth, I realized, was more terrifying than any lie the prosecution had ever told. And I was the only one who knew it. Now, the question wasn't about clearing my name anymore. It was about surviving him. Thanks for watching. If you were captivated by this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next.